Hey there everybody, welcome back to the channel. Listen, today we're going to be talking about induction cooking. I know many of you are probably already familiar with induction cooking. You may already have an induction cooking cooktop or stove, and there may be others out there who've never heard of it or who probably have the mindset that when it comes to either electric cooking or natural gas cooking will say, Daryl, you will not get my electric or natural gas away from me unless you pry it from my cold dead hands. If that's you, hang in there with me. After I go over a few of the advantages and disadvantages of induction cooking, I just may change your mind. Even if I don't, hopefully you'll watch the video and at least be a little more enlightened about what induction cooking is all about. Hopefully I'll take away a lot of the mystery. So without further ado, first, let me share with you what my drink today is. Doesn't that look gorgeous? That is a cran apple blend with a lime wedge on the rocks. And it's so good. I may put some vodka in it a little bit later, but for now, it's virgin. All right, so without any further ado, as I said a moment ago, let's get into the advantages of induction cooking. Let's start with pro number one. First thing that I think it's important to keep in mind with induction cooking is that heat is transferred directly to your cookware and not to the unit. In other words, when you're cooking with natural gas, there are several things that have to be heated up before your food is actually heated up. That is a very similar process when you're cooking on an electric stove. The element itself has to heat up, your pot has to heat up, and then your food starts to warm. With induction cooking, it's none of that. Number two, precise temperature control. Believe it or not, and this is so true, when you're using induction cooking, you have more control over your heat than you do with natural gas or electric. It's a proven fact. I'm sure you've heard many people say, I don't like cooking on electric because them things don't cook right. Well, with induction cooking, that really isn't an issue because with induction cooking, it's precise. So if you make a dish today and you have the unit set on 3 and you cook a month from now and you set it on 3, you're getting the exact temperature. The challenge you have with natural gas, as I'm sure many of you know, I don't care how you try to adjust your burner, there's no guarantee that you're either raising or lowering the burner width the same so that your food has the exact same temp. Similar problem with electric cooking, but that's not an issue with induction cooking. Since you have precise control, odds are that you're gonna have consistent results each time you cook. Tip number 3, always the right fit because the cooktop detects the diameter of your pot. As I said earlier, one of the things that you won't have to deal with induction cooking is trying to size well, you don't have a flame, but trying to size the heat to the diameter of the pot. Don't worry about that. Induction cooking cooktops and stoves, for the most part, will do that for you. Tip number 4. This is a big one, and believe me when I tell you it's true. Induction cooking is far more efficient than either natural gas or electric. I think the best estimates for the comparison when you look at natural gas is probably anywhere from a 35 to maybe a 45% increase in efficiency from an induction cooking. Induction cooking needs nowhere near the amount of energy to give you the same result as the 2 other methods. Tip number 5, it is easy to clean. It's easy to clean because induction cooking, the cooktop does not get hot. The only thing that gets hot is the cookware. Now, you might ask, okay, if I cook on it, can I put my hand on it when I finish? No, you cannot. You cannot, primarily because what you will have is heat transfer from your cooktop to the top of the induction heater. The difference there is this. With natural gas, you're looking at a flame that burns somewhere around 3,000 to maybe 3,600 degrees. That's natural gas. With electric cooking, the cooktop is probably somewhere between 9 and 1600 degrees Fahrenheit. On the other hand, with induction cooking, let's say, for example, you're boiling water, right? Water boils at 212 degrees. If you take that pot off of the stove, that glass will be no hotter than the cookware that was sitting on top of it. Got a demonstration for you. That's one I think you will definitely want to see. So those are some advantages of using an induction cooktop. Now, are there disadvantages? Certainly. I don't think they outweigh the advantages, but here are a couple. One, you might need new cookware. One of the ways to tell is to break out your trusty magnet. If you want to know if your cookware will work with induction cooking, just take a magnet to it. If you've got cast iron, you don't have anything to worry about. Most of the stainless steel and copper, you don't have anything to worry about. But again, if you're shopping for new cookware or you want to know if what you have in your home will work already, just get your little cheap magnet and stick it to it. If the magnet adheres to your cookware, yes, it will work with induction cooking. Another disadvantage for some people is that there's a slight learning curve. Remember, I told you earlier that induction cooking is more precise than natural gas and electric. So if you're used to cooking on those, those two methods, you have to get used to having more precise cooking. With induction cooking, when it's on, it's on. When you turn it off, it's off. When you increase the heat, it's instant. When you decrease the heat, it's instant. So keep that in mind if you decide to go with induction cooking. And then lastly, well, it's not lastly, but this is the last big one for me. You need power. So if your power is out, if you had a electric stove, you couldn't use it. If you have induction cooking and your power goes out, you really can't use it. But how often does the power really go out, right? Think about that. So those are the advantages and disadvantages of induction cooking. Stand by and let me give you a demonstration that I hope and I think will blow your mind. We've already spoken about the advantages of induction cooking. Now I want to visually show you those advantages in no particular order. Let's start out by pointing out that the cooktop automatically detects the diameter of the cookware. So in the case of this pot, as you'll see, this pot fits that element perfectly well. But if I wanted to use this element, the cooktop would sense the diameter, and that's the only part of the cooking element that will be active, where the cookware is sitting. If I was able to use this pot on this heating element, this part here outside of where the diameter would not be active. I don't think I can use a pot this small on this particular burner unless the other ones are being used. But that I won't worry about. I'll focus on what I said here today about the cooktop sensing the diameter of the pot. In addition to that, the cooktop will also sense whether there's cooktop sitting on it. Let me give you an example of that, a demonstration of that, excuse me. So you turn your power on, you select a burner, and you select a heating strength. And this time I'll just go with 6. As you can see, the cooktop has detected that there is the appropriate cookware on it, and it's working. Now, let's just say I'm cooking pasta and I want to take it off for a minute to rinse it. You can take the cookware off. The cooktop will automatically stop being active. You do have a little time. Let's say, again, if you're rinsing pasta and you want to come back, it won't shut itself off automatically. You come back, put your cookware back on the cooktop, and it'll resume cooking at the strength that you had it. One other thing about this, the cooktop itself does not get hot. Only the cookware gets hot, thus cooking your food. Now, I mentioned earlier that although the cooktop does not get hot, you can't simply take this pot off and place your hand on it, because you'll have heat transfer from the cookware to the top of the cooktop. So the cooktop will be a little too hot for you to touch, but the cooktop will be no hotter than your pot was. If you were cooking with natural gas, which I told you earlier, burned at about 3,500 degrees, you'd have a super hot cooktop, as well as with electric cooking. With induction cooking, that cooktop is going to be about the same temperature as the pot. So again, I know I've said this a few times already, the cooktop will be about the same temperature as the cookware. I'm going to show you that in a moment. Now, another thing I want to point out is that you have precise temperature control. When you're cooking, oops, made a little boo-boo there, and you select your burner, and if you put it on, that's whatever number you put it on, the output of the cooktop, is going to be the same every single time you cook. The way that is definitely different from natural gas cooking is that with natural gas, you have to try and size your burner very close to where you had it on a previous meal. So it doesn't matter whether you're cooking greens or beans or rice. You can try and approximate your flame size to your cookware, but there's no guarantee you're getting it exactly the same. So you're probably not always cooking at the same temp, but that's not the issue with induction cooking. The output, as long as you select the same number, the output is going to be the same every single time you cook on it. Now let me demonstrate to you how fast this darn thing cooks. So let's see how quick we can boil water. Look at my timer here. So let's select our burner, our element, I should say element and not burner. And then I'll put it on boost because that's fast. And then I'm gonna start my timer. And we're gonna let this go to make sure we have a full rolling boil. And I want you to note how quickly you can have boiling water. Would you agree that that's a rolling boil? And notice that we're under 2 minutes. Even without the head start, you'd have boiling water in less than 2 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the timer. Now, let me demonstrate something else to you that you may or may not believe. Let's say you're cooking and you don't want to mess. You notice how even the boiling water is splattering all over the cooktop? This here is just parchment paper. I'm going to show you what you could do to not have your cooktop get messy. Now, I would not try this with wax paper, but parchment paper, watch this. I'm going to remove the pot from the element. I'm going to let it stop cooking, and look at this. I'm going to put the parchment paper over that, and let me just make sure I'm over the burner. Watch this. So if you're frying chicken or making juices or whatever it is, this is one technique that you can utilize to keep from having a lot of cleanup when you're done. Let's say you didn't want to use parchment paper and you wanted to use a towel. I did fried chicken on a towel and I got some comments saying, hey man, how did you do that? So look here, I'm gonna put the towel over this particular heating element. Now, I would say if you're going to use a towel, which is not necessarily recommended in the manual, make sure it's 100% cotton. Don't do this with a blend, because even though this doesn't get hot, I don't necessarily know how well a blend towel will handle, like, let's say 200 degrees. Before I show you the demonstration with the towel, let me illustrate to you the temperature of the water. See that? Look at that. Now let's take the pot off, and I want you to note the temperature of the cooktop. (230 degrees). If that was natural gas, you'd be looking at a temperature in the thousands. Let me go to my next part of my demonstration. So let's put the towel here. Let's say we're making chicken like I did before, and you don't want to have a lot of cleanup. So you kind of make sure it's over the burner, right? You select your burner, and you can select your strength. Now this is the same word I had a moment ago. Take a look at that. That is not something that you can do with any other cooking method. The cooktop will be no hotter than the cookware. So if I was frying chicken at, let's say, 350 degrees, I need some material that could withstand the 350 degrees. But you certainly would not have an excess temperature of like 500, 600, 700 degrees, because again, the cooktop itself does not get hot. See that? And then when you take your cookware off, it automatically stops. See that? There's no burns or marks or anything on the towel. And then if you notice here, if you don't put anything back, the cooktop will automatically turn itself off. So if you're cooking and you don't necessarily want to walk back over and turn it off, don't worry about it. It'll turn itself off. There are your pros, cons, and your demonstration of why I think you should consider induction cooking. Having said that, now the decision is yours. If you have any questions or comments, put those down in the description box below, and I'll try and answer those. Otherwise, let's close how we always close. First with a sip. And then I will say, as I always say, help a brother out, subscribe to the channel, and tell a friend. See you guys on the next video. Bye-bye.